So good morning. I'm Sheriff Mike Williams, and I'm here today to welcome Governor Rick Scott to Jacksonville, and along with all of our partners that you see represented up here today. I know that Northeast Florida mourns the tragic events that occurred in Parkland, Florida just a few weeks ago. We're all asking hard questions, and we know that solutions are clearly needed. But I want to tell you that we have a governor who's not afraid to lead in a crisis. So be it a natural disaster or a tragedy like the one that occurred in Parkland just a few weeks ago again, he reaches out, he engages, and he gets involved, and we're fortunate to have him in that position. So he's leading on this issue with a great framework to tackle gun violence while enhancing school safety. And while there's going to be a lot of work to do, I'm confident that the law enforcement agencies and elected officials in Northeast Florida are prepared, again, to work together to deliver the highest level of safety to our schools. So as I have read and understand the governor's plan, what I keep coming back to and what I'm worried about in our community is keeping guns out of the hands of unsupervised kids, keeping guns out of the hands of the mentally ill, and keeping guns away from criminals. In particular, those guns that are out on the street every single day that my officers are facing. And there's much work to do, a lot of work to do, as we all know. But I want to say, as I stand before you here today, I pledge to our community that our officers are prepared, they are ready, and they are committed to get in there, engage, and fight for every student and every family in Jacksonville. And so now, if you would, please join me in welcoming Governor Rick Scott. Governor.
Thank you. Well, Sheriff, I want to thank you for the opportunity to be here. We have with us here, we have sheriffs here. We have individuals from the Jacksonville Sheriff's Department. We've got State Board of Education members. We have superintendents. We have Highway Patrol here. Everybody here realizes that the most important thing we can do is take care of our students. Everybody wants to be safe. I travel the state every day, and people ask me three things. They want to make sure we have a good economy so they can get a job. They want to make sure their children get a good education, and they want to be safe, whether they're out in their house, or they're out shopping. Clearly, when they're sending their child to school, they want that child to come home safe. It's horrible that 17 lives were lost in Parkland. You can't imagine this happening to your family. I think most of us, when we hear of a tragedy, the first thing you do is you think about your own family. In my case, I have 2 daughters and 6 grandsons. I called my daughters that day and said, unfortunately for you, with your children, you're going to have to teach them about the risk of an active shooter. It's horrible that in our society today we have to do this. But we have to make sure we make changes to do everything we can to make sure this never happens again. This state is never going to be the same, but we're going to try to make sure it's never the same. We're going to do everything we can to make sure it never happens again. So as soon as this happened, I asked sheriffs, police chiefs, and other members of law enforcement to come to Tallahassee and say, what are the things we need to be doing? I asked educators to come to Tallahassee and say, what do you think we should be doing? I asked mental health professionals to come to Tallahassee, said, what should we be doing? I met with students, I met with parents, just to get everybody's idea to make sure we do everything we can to make sure this never happens again. On Friday, I came out with a plan to do what we can do to make sure our schools are safe. I'm going to be working with the legislature over the next week and a half. Our session ends March 9th, but we have got to get something done that's going to make sure our schools are safe. The reforms that I proposed make it virtually impossible for anyone who has mental illnesses, has struggled with mental illness, or is a threat to themselves or others to have access to a gun. The plan I put forward is a $500 million state investment. It's going to increase collaboration between local sheriffs, local police departments, schools, Department of Children and Families, and Department of Juvenile Justice. There will be mandatory law enforcement presence, significant presence in every public school in this state. All hours that it's open. Every school district will have a plan that's approved by their local sheriff. I believe the local sheriffs have to be the ones that are responsible for the law enforcement and the plans at our schools, whether that's what the law enforcement presence should be or how we harden our schools. The local sheriffs have to be the ones to sign off on that. But no question about it, we have to have increased law enforcement presence at all of our schools. Part of my plan will have significant investments in school safety, including metal detectors, bulletproof glass, steel doors, and upgraded locks. We'll have an anonymous see something, say something, statewide dedicated hotline, website, and mobile app. We will have dedicated mental health workers at all of our schools for our students to reach out to and hopefully meet with and hopefully prevent something like this from happening again. I want to have a Department of Children and Family employee embedded in every sheriff's department to increase the collaboration between the schools, DCF, DJJ, and all of local law enforcement. I want to have a threat assessment team at every school with the principal, a teacher, local law enforcement, DCF, and JJJ, so they can meet on a monthly basis and say, where are risks? How do we deal with those risks? The goal, massive changes in school safety. We've got to completely change school safety in this state. More mental health resources. And we've got to keep the guns out of the hands of individuals that are struggling with mental illness or threatening themselves or others. They should not have access to a gun. There's nothing more important than to do all we can to make sure an evil act like this never happens again. It's horrible what happened. We're all disgusted with what happened. We've got to do all we can to make sure this doesn't happen again. I'm going to be working over the next week and a half with our legislature to get my proposal passed. I hope everybody reaches out to their House and Senate members to say, we have got to do something right now that has an impact, that makes sure we do everything we can to make sure every parent knows when their child walks to school or goes to school, they are going to come home safe and sound. So call your House members and call your Senate members. By the way, we have the money in the budget. I walked in this year with over a $3 billion projected revenue over projected revenue over recurring expenses. Just in the last couple of weeks, we found that we have even significantly more projected revenue, so we have the resources to do this. We've got to spend them the right way. Now it's my distinct opportunity to introduce Mayor Curry. As you know, when both Sheriff Williams and Mayor Curry ran for their positions, one of the things they really focused on was the safety of the citizens in this area of the state, and they've worked hard to make sure the Jacksonville area is a very safe state, or very safe area for families to grow.
Well, thank you, Governor. And let me just say, I've often talked about the leadership of Governor Scott on the day-to-day stuff and serving the people of Florida. And my gosh, we are blessed to have his leadership in a moment of crisis. It's action-oriented, it's specific, and it's goal-oriented. So thank you, Governor. I have had the honor of working for you, the people of Jacksonville, for 2.5 years now, and in that 2.5 years, my top commitment with this sheriff has been public safety, and specifically when we talk about the safety of our children, Jacksonville's children. So I just remain committed to law enforcement, the schools, the sheriff having the resources that they need. The city will do its part to make sure that our children are safe. And I'll close with this. My kids walk to school. I can actually see them enter the schoolyard. And when they hit that schoolyard, I feel a sense of safety and security. I turn around and go because they're in the arms of adults that are going to teach them and take care of them. Can't even imagine how something like this could happen in a school. Thank you.